After traversing through Hagans Switchback in the back door of the CV, E975 leaves its home rails as it crosses over on the Norfolk Southern's Appalachia District. Let's load up and give chase as we venture across the state line and explore the bottom half of the Cumberland Valley. A soft rumble slowly drowns out the sound of our drone as we peer towards Hagans Tunnel and await the arrival of E975, empty hoppers from Corbin, Kentucky, en route to the yard at Russell. This is Railfan Micah Turner, welcoming you all to Hagans Switchback, the only active mainline switchback in the United States. Today, we're taking a look at operations across the switchback and exploring the history behind how this engineering marvel has lasted here at the Kentucky-Virginia border for nearly a century. Let's take a look at how it works. Southbound trains to Kingsport exit the tunnel and pull their train into the lower tail tracks. Once clear, the conductor will line the switch and the train will shove up grade through the middle leg whilst aligning the upper switch via radio. Once clear, they will once again radio the switch alignment and head east towards Big Stone Gap. Likewise, any train running northbound towards Lowell will perform the same movements but in reverse. As mentioned, this is the only place in the United States that you can see mainline railroading like this. In its heyday, Hagans Switchback would see dozens of moves a day depending on traffic. In modern times, however, the switchback sees an average of 1 or 2 trains a day, though on the right occasion could be more, as evident by one day early in June, resulting in 9 trains traversing the switchback in a 24-hour period. The lower tail tracks here are rated for 110 cars, of which result in complex doubling moves to clear the switch before the train is put back together and shoved up the grade. In the days when pusher sets were more common, these procedures could be done a lot easier, yet nowadays, full unit trains can spend as much as 45 minutes to an hour here before continuing on their journey. As E975 enters the lower leg, we watch as conductor Dave Pruitt lines the switch and rides the shove, with engineer Jay Dean at the throttle on the head end. I want to give a special shout out to one of my loyal fans, Mr. Kelton Dean. Kelton has been a fan of the channel for years, and it's viewers like him who make these videos possible. Thanks, Kelton. When the Cumberland Valley Division was first constructed, the goal was to extend the line from Corbin, Kentucky to Norton, Virginia to interchange with the Norfolk and Western. This initial construction began in 1886, reaching Middlesboro in 1889, where the Knoxville, Cumberland Gap, and Louisville Railroad had constructed a tunnel through the mountain that the L&N would utilize. With the tunnel access, they extended the rails to the east, finally reaching Norton in 1891. Meanwhile, in 1908, the Wasiato and Black Mountain Railroad had began an effort to extend into the Harlan County coalfields, at the time owned by the railroad's chairman and local businessman T.J. Asher. They would branch off of the L&N's trackage at the community of Harble, just south of Pineville. The L&N began contributing to the line's construction, and in 1909 bought the trackage outright, at the time extending around 13 miles upriver from Harble. In 1911, the L&N arrived in Harlan and would soon construct a series of branches to service more of the coalfields in the area, including the Poor Fork branch and the Martins Fork branch. After the coal boom of the 20s, the L&N and the ACL would form an interchange agreement, utilizing the CC&O, better and later known as the clinch field, to transport the coal. Plans were then established to extend the L&N's trackage to Speers Ferry, Virginia, to meet the CC&O just north of Gate City. Around the same point in time, the Cumberland Gap Tunnel in Middlesboro was also proving to be unfavorable. The tunnel had been built at a slight uphill slope on either side, resulting in poor airflow. Not to mention, the tunnel had suffered several collapses since its construction. As a result, this new connection with the clinch field was set to branch off of the L&N's Martins Fork branch and intersect the current main line via a new tunnel at Hagans, Virginia, before running further south towards Speers Ferry. Construction began in late 1927, and in 1930 was completed to Hagans. As a sort of midpoint, a switchback was built so that trains could access and utilize the CV main above as a shortcut, and thus Hagans Switchback was born. Now shoving up the middle leg, the engines pass us before disappearing around the curve. If you know your history, you know around the same time as Hagen's completion that the Great Depression had engulfed the United States, which also left the L&N in fear of bankruptcy. As a result, the extension to Speers Ferry was put on hold until things would settle out, with the railroad utilizing the switchback as a more prominent means of access to Norton. The L&N also opted to utilize the local interstate railroad for interchange with the Clinchfield, the interstate of which meeting the CC&O at Miller Yard, south of St. Paul, Virginia. As the Depression lingered on, however, the extension plans were scrapped, and this system became the new normal. After the switchback at Hagans was placed into service, all through traffic was routed through Lowell and Harlan, leaving what then became known as the old CV to only carry a daily local to serve industries, as well as passenger service up into the 50s. With the line falling into disrepair and industries leaving, the old CV was officially abandoned in 1987, with part of the right-of-way being cleared and incorporated into the building of U.S. Highway 58.
Hagen, out. .7. Switch is normal. Switch is normal. CSX. Hagen. Out.
I'm on and ready, 723. On and ready, here we go.
With everything lined and ready to go, E975 pulls up the grade out of Hagans as they head east along the CV towards Big Stone Gap. Down below, you'll spot the grade of the old CV on the right, and in a few minutes, Hagans Tunnel and the trackage the train emerged from around a half hour earlier. We packed up and followed this train on out this leg of the CV, in which is seldom documented. After leaving Hagans, we head to our next spot at Allinger, Virginia, where this farm scene stands as one of the most popular shots in the area. After a brief stop in Pennington, the roar of E975 could be heard climbing out of town towards us. Special thanks to Harold for allowing us access here for the catch. Back to our history, the interstate eventually fell victim to the Southern Railway, that would then merge with the N&W to create what we now know as Norfolk Southern. Later, once the Clinchfield opted into the family line system and was then gobbled up into Seaboard, trackage rights were acquired to allow coal traffic to traverse N&W's and soon to be NS's route to St. Paul, where trains would then turn south towards Kingsport. This was the case up until 1986, when the newly established CSX constructed the new connection here in Big Stone Gap to allow trains to turn south and run trackage rights to Frisco, where they would then return to home rails and make the charge on into Kingsport as they do today. We watch as E975 leaves CSX rails and enters NS's Appalachia District here at Big Stone. I hope you all have enjoyed this deep dive into the operations on the Virginia side of the Cumberland Valley. Hagans Switchback is a really neat operation to observe, and I hope this video inspires some of you to come and take a look for yourself. If you liked what you've seen, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, from the coalfields, this is Railfan Micah Turner. God bless y'all.